Hey y'all, this is Ryan at GoFab CNC. I wanted to make a video to show you how you can recreate an existing part in Inkscape using pictures that have been taken with a camera and that have measurements like a ruler or a tape measure or some sort of indicator for what the measurements are going to be. So I took the pictures that I have of this part, put them in a folder on my desktop so they're all together. And if you click on one of them, if you've got Windows 10, it's going to open up the Windows picture viewer, and it's really convenient because you can scroll through the images and you can rotate them. And I like to rotate them so I have the right orientation in my mind when I'm going through and designing it. So as an example, I'll click on this part 1, which opens up their viewer, and let's see, let's get it centered right here. And you can see there's some arrows. There's no arrows this way because it's the start. So I'll click through and you can see this is the part that we're going to be making. And the first thing I'm going to do is get all of these pictures rotated in a way that makes sense to me. So the first thing I'm going to do is find a picture of the part. So here's the part. This is what we're making. And for me, I think I'm going to go with it like this. So this is going to be the top of the part for me. Down here is going to be the bottom part for me. So this will be the width going from left to right, and this will be the height going from the bottom, this bottommost point right here, up to this topmost point right here. So let's go ahead and get all of these pictures rotated to where they're in that same orientation. Let's just start at the beginning so I don't get ahead of myself. Alright, there we go. Let's get this one rotated. That one's the right way. That one's the right way. This one needs to get rotated. There we go. This one needs to get rotated. Alright. And that looks like one of those legs. That needs to go like this. And it looks like it's the same thing for this one. Another one. And another one. Alright, that's all of them. Now let's go back to that one that kind of shows an overview so we can get a game plan. Alright, right there. It looks like we've got a perfectly symmetrical hole that's really large that goes in the center right here. And then we've got another cutout section right here that at some point starts to curve. It looks like that curve might be a little bit wider than this curve is. And then some mounting holes for bolts. Let's see, they're in sets. It looks like there's 5 sets of them. 2 additional holes down here, and it looks like we've kind of got a tapered side and squared up sides on the left and on the right. So the first thing I want to do is figure out what the width is and what the height is. So let me see if there's one that shows. Okay, here's one showing the width. It looks like it's 8 1/4. Let's see if there's one showing the height. And then that way. There we go. Looks like it's right at 10 inches, and I'm assuming that's at the bottom of that point on that left leg. Alright, let's get out of this. We're going to close that. We don't need it anymore. Now we're going to open up Inkscape. And I want to point out, it's really important that the version of Inkscape that you have is version 0.91. There's a 0.92, I think there's a 0.93, I don't know how high it goes. But 0.91 is the version that you want. If you go to our website, we have a link to get 0.91. That's the one that we always reference. That's the one that is absolutely rock solid. And whatever size you created in that version of Inkscape, and this version of Inkscape that I'm using, and open it up on the tablet, it's going to be perfect. And if you try and use one of those 0.92s or those other ones, I always have issues where the scaling somehow gets off when it creates the file. And when I bring it onto the tablet, it's not the size that I want. Now you can't always resize stuff on the tablet too, so it's not a make or break kind of thing, but it's really convenient to not have to mess with that and it just be right out of the gate. So, and to check that, I'll show you. You go up here to Help, scroll down to About Inkscape, and it's going to tell you right here 0.91. That's the version that you want. They also do a different picture with every version, so you want to see this bird and you want to see 0.91. Alright, let's close this. Now the first thing you're going to do before you do anything else is you're going to tell Inkscape that this file that you're making is going to be for your plasma table. So go up here and click on Extensions and come down to G-Code Tools. This is the extension that creates the file. we're going to go over to Tools Library and make sure that Plasma is selected. It may be on default. Whatever it's on, just make sure that Plasma is selected and come down here and hit Apply. A little window is going to pop up like that, and it'll make a green box. That green box, if you don't see it, but you saw that little box where it said it was doing something, more than likely it made it, but instead of placing it right behind where you can see, it made it way up here off the screen and you can't see it. That's okay. It doesn't have to be where you can see it, it just needs to be there. So close this, and if you ever need to check and make sure it's there, hit this magnifying glass and zoom out until you can see it. What I like to do though, as soon as I create it, I click on it and get it way away from where I'm going to be working because I don't want to see it. I just need to know that it's there. So let's zoom back in over here. Now the next thing we need to do is decide what dimensions we're going to use. Are we going to do inches? Are we going to do millimeters? What measurement system do we want to use for referencing this? Well, it was all done in inches, so it's going to be a lot easier with that measuring tape to just do inches on here too. And you'll see there's a ruler up here and there's a ruler on the side, and it starts at 0, which is the very bottom of this outline, and it goes all the way up to the top, so the numbers are increasing, and it starts right here at 0 on this line and increases going all the way this way to the right. So let's go to File, whoops, I zoomed in. Let's go to File, Document Properties. So there's two different measurement systems. The first one is this grid right here that just says everything we're designing, what do we want to use as a reference. Right here it says default units. We want to change that from px, which means pixels, which is talking about the little dots on your screen that have no value to us. We're going to say inches. And then right here this is saying page size, and page size is referencing this little outline you see. Now whatever you put for this page size doesn't matter. You can design something and it be larger than that page size. You can design something and it be smaller than that page size. This has no impact on anything and is just a reference for you to see what you're making and how big it is in reference to a predefined shape. So a lot of owners will set this to be the size of a particular sheet of metal that they use on their tables. So you could set it to be, let's go down here, let's change this to feet. And we're going to change the width to be 4 feet. So you saw it just got a lot wider. And we're going to set the height to be 8 feet for a good old 4x8 table. So let's close this. And let's zoom out. And you'll see it's a lot bigger outline than what it was before. But you can see that's inches right there. That says 48 inches. So it's saying this is 0. It's 48 inches wide. And right here is 0. And it goes all the way up to 96 inches right there. So that's the sheet. But I'm not worried about cutting this out of a sheet. I want to use this as a reference for that part that we're going to make. So what I'm going to do is go back to Document Properties. And I'm going to change it to 8.25 because that's what the width was. Let's double check on that and go back. There's the height. Let's see. Yep, width was 8 1/4 right there. And the height was 10 inches. So I'll go back to here and I'm going to say I want the height to be 10 inches. Oh, whoops, I've got this in feet. Let's screw that up. That would have been way too big. 8.25 and a height of 10 inches. There we go, now we're smaller. Let's get out of this. Let's zoom into this part that we're doing. Alright. So, we've got our outline of what the perimeter of this part is going to be. Let's put some metal down. Now, the way that Inkscape works is it's a lot like you're working with clay, but instead of clay, it's metal. So you're putting metal down and you're taking metal away, and you're putting metal down and you're taking it away. So the first thing we're going to do, and pretty much the only two tools that you ever use are this circle tool and this rectangular tool. So anywhere you want, just click and drag, and it'll make a rectangle that's on the screen. Now, yours could be black, it could be any color. You can change the color by clicking down here, and we are going to change the colors of the stuff that we make because it makes it a lot easier to know what it is. So I'm going to leave it red. It's kind of light right now. Over here on this section are all the different settings I can change. So if you click on where it says fill and stroke, it's talking about what color is filled in right here, and you can see this thing says opacity. I have it turned down so I can see the part behind it or see something through it. I'm going to put it at 100% starting out. Now I'm going to click on this arrow, which allows me to select this. You can see these arrows allow you to change sizes. If I click on the corner, I can change all of it. If I click here, it doesn't change how tall it is, it only changes how wide it is. So now that I've got it selected up here, it's going to give you where the starting point is, and the starting point is always talking about this corner. Where is this corner? So if I move it right here in relation to this corner is 0, 0. See, it's got a 0 right there, meaning there's a line coming straight across, and then there's a 0 right here, meaning this edge coming down right here. So 0, 0 is right there. And this corner, the bottom left corner of this, is at 1.325 inches away from this edge right here, and 4.736 inches away from the bottom down here. So we're going to drop this down to 0 so it bumps right up against that side. We're going to change this one to 0 so it drops it down to the bottom. And now we're going to set this piece of metal that we're working with to match that those guides, that page that we have down right there. So let's change it to 8.25, and let's change the height to 10 inches. So there you go. That's the main piece of metal that I'm going to be working with, and I'm going to start taking metal away from it. I'm going to add metal to it as I do things. So the first piece that we're going to take away, if we go back and look at that part, this giant circle right here is the most distinct part to me, and it's the easiest one to create and place. So let's see if we can find a picture that shows what the width of that is. Okay, this is the one I'm guessing that shows. It looks like it's starting at that edge and going to about 4.5 right there, I'm assuming is where that's going to fall. So let's go back to here, and now let's click on the circle tool. And when you click it, it's making an oval. It's not going to be a perfect circle. You can make it a perfect circle by holding down the control button. If you hold down the control button, it keeps it kind of locked into a perfect circle, but it doesn't matter. We're going to type in the dimensions that we want, so just make sure it's selected. And see, this is an example. If it's red and that's red and I drag it over, you can't see it. So if you click off of it, it may be hard to start trying to figure out where that part is. You have to click around until it shows up. So I'm going to change the color to green. It's something that jumps out compared to that red. So let's, now up here, I showed you the X and the Y and the width and the height. We're going to take this and change it to 4.5 inches width and 4.5 inches height. So there you go. That is the cutout that we're going to cut out of this. Now going back and looking at that picture, let's go back to the one that shows a wide shot of it. It looks like that is perfectly spaced left and right. So what I'm going to do is over here, this makes the items that you're moving jump over to another part. It snaps to them. It's like a magnet, and it pulls it to the other one. So if you want to line up the edges or you want to line up the center point, this is what you're going to use. And I turn all this stuff on. So right now we want this to be on. We want this to be on. This means that it's going to bound to the edges, that bounding box. This is the bounding box right here, these dotted lines. This one has a bounding box too that you can see. This right here says we want them to match corners to corners, and we want it to match to the center of the edge, and this one says we want it to match to the center of the object. So if we want it to match to the center of the object, and I click on this one right here and start dragging it over, it should make it jump to dead center right there. It shows it. You can see it shows a little message saying bounding box midpoint something. Let me move it back. Alright, perfect. We've got it in the center where we want. Now we have to move it all the way up to the top to get it placed, or somewhere towards the top. Let's take a look and see. Okay, so that's the very top. It's whatever the thickness of this is right here, that the top of this needs to be down from the top. So let's go and see if there's one showing. Okay, right there. It looks like 1 inch. 1 inch is what that band needs to be. So, and this is 4.5 inches, and that was 10 inches. So we need to be at 4.5 inches from the bottom on this one. Let's go to 4.5. Yep, there's 9 inches coming across right there. You can see that goes right across the top of that bounding box. I'm going to change this to a different color, blue, so you can see those a little bit easier. There, now you can see that line. You can see that it's hitting right there. And if you grab those lines and you drag them back up, they disappear. Alright, so we've got that where we want. Now, also looking at this, it looks like this band, we need to have another circle created that matches the diameter of this. And if this is 4.5 and this has got 1 inch, that means it's going to be 1 inch on either side. So instead of 4.5, we need it to be 6.5. And you can create another one like this, I'm going to delete that one though. You can also click this one and go up to Edit, Duplicate. And now again, it created a green one, so you can't see the difference between the two of them. So I'm going to change it to this purple color right here. Alright, and you'll see it snaps over to that one. So let's change this one to 6.5 and 6.5. And we want it to snap to the middle of that one. And even though you can't see the one behind it, you can still see it shows you that little outline that it snapped to it. And now that opacity that I was showing you before, I'm going to drop that down, and that allows me to see behind this piece that I'm making and see the other pieces that are behind it. So we've got this, we've got that ring. Let's see, what are we going to work on next? I think the next thing we're going to work on is that cutout section that goes right here. So let's go back and see what we're looking at for that. Let's see, nope, not that way. Alright, well this one that's showing us the height for 10 inches, I think we can also use this one to kind of gauge this to be off of, it looks like it might be 4 inches is the top most part of this right here. So now we need to figure out how wide this is. There you go, that's the one. It looks like it's 4 1/4. Okay, so 4 1/4 wide, and the max that it goes up to is 4 inches. So I'm going to make another rectangle that's those dimensions, and you can make it anywhere you want. I'm going to move it over to there. I like to create them in the white space and then move them over to the part that I'm messing with. So let's click on it. We need to change the width to 4.25 and the height to 4. That's right, isn't it? Let me double check that real quick. No, 5.5. Okay. So where is it? Width is 5.5. Perfect. Now same thing. If I drag this one over, it's going to go to the center point, and it's also going to magnetize down to the bottom. It'll magnetize to anything I get it near, but I want it down here specifically. All right, good. So now we've kind of got the basis of that cutout. Let's go back and take a look at some of these other pictures. I'm thinking we need to decide where that where it starts to curve like this. We need to see how far up from the bottom that starts. Let's take a look and see if we can find. Looks like that hole's kind of in the center from this point to there to right where that starts, like it's kind of a triangle. Let's see if there's a better picture showing it. We'll say 2.5. Yeah, we're gonna leave it at 2.5. So I'm gonna drag one of these, and as I drag it down, if you look down here, it's gonna tell you what the X and the Y is. So I want the Y to end up at 2.5, 2.5. There you go. Now that shows 2.5 perfectly. If I couldn't get it, if it was jumping from 2.49 to 2.51, then if you take that magnifying glass and zoom in, the resolution gets higher and higher and higher. So as you start to move it, you'll see it changes way slower, so you can get it exactly what you want, and you can go all the way to crazy levels of zoomed in. And now watch how much I have to move it for it to change. There, see, 2.49, 2.50. So we're gonna leave it right there. We'll back out. Okay. So from what this is looking like, we've got to have a curve that starts here, hits the top of this, and comes back over here. So let's make a circle. And I'm gonna hold down Control because I want this to be a perfect circle. I'm gonna hit the arrow tool to move it. You can see it moved it to the center of this that we have right here. And now I want to move it straight up, so I'm going to press Control, which is going to lock it in whatever direction I start moving, so it won't be a little off to the left or a little off to the right. So if I hold Control and start dragging it, you can see even if I move my mouse left and right, it's not moving left and right. Now if I move back closer to where I started and start off moving left or right, same thing happens. Now it won't let me move up and down. So I want to go up and I want it to hit the top of that. It jumped up. So if you click closer to the edge that you want to snap, it works a little better. So this is the edge that I want to snap to the top of this. So I'm going to hold down Control again, grab it, and there you go. See it snaps right to this top edge. Now we need to make these sides come all the way out and touch here. And the way that I'm going to do that is to hold down Control, press this bottom one, and start dragging it down. And you can see it keeps the top locked where it is. And the sides are just getting wider and wider and wider. I'm trying to get it. First, let me take off this snap because it's not letting me move it in between the little spots I want to. So let's move it back. And say right there, looks pretty good. So now what I'm going to do is take this piece of metal right here and this piece of metal right here, and I'm going to cut this piece of metal away from this piece of metal back here. So if I hold down Shift, I can select both of them. You'll see a bounding box appear around both. I'm going to come up to Path and say Difference. Now right there is what I'm left with, that curve that we wanted. And don't worry that it's overlapping this ring that we did before. We'll fix all of that later. This is just helping us get all of our orientations like we want. So we've got that arc that we're going to use. Now let's create another rectangle. I'm going to turn my snapping tools back on, and I'm going to press the arrow, grab this corner right here, and move it till it snaps to that corner right there. Perfect. Now I'm going to drag this one in the middle, which won't let it get any taller, and just drag it over till it snaps to that side. Perfect. Now I'm going to go all the way down. Till we get to the bottom. Perfect. Now I've got that one selected. Now I'm going to select the big plate that's behind it, and I'm going to take this rectangle. Let me change that color so it's easier to tell what we're working with. Alright, so this green rectangle that I just created, I'm going to take out of this blue big plate that we have on the back right here. Let's go to Path, Difference. Alright, there you go, it's gone. And you can see that pink one that's left over that shows that arc. So we're going to select it, select this plate, and now we're going to go to Path Union. And when we do that, it makes that piece of metal become part of that blue piece of metal. So now we've got the arc that we're going to use. We've got this big circle. We've got the ring identified that's the perimeter around it like a lip. So now let's work on that part that comes down from the side here and connects over. So we need to figure out about how far down it stops doing this circle and starts branching out. We need to figure out where on this edge it connects to. So let's go back and take a look. Alright, well, if that's 10 inches, it looks like maybe 6.5 inches. Oh no, 5.5 inches from the bottom is where we're coming across right here. So let's go ahead and put a guide there to mark it. And then again, if you look down here, you'll see what the number is as I move it. There we go, 5.5. So we've got the right spot for this to start coming in this way, and now let's look where that curve starts. It looks like the curve starts, you can see right there, it starts branching straight. So it's right about there. I'm guessing that's going to be about 8.5, maybe right there that it's coming. Maybe it's 8.25. I'll say 8.5. Let's go to 8.5. There we go. So we want it to hit right there and come down to there, and we want it to hit right there and come down to there. I'm going to change this to green so it's a little bit easier to see. And this piece, I'm going to send it to the back. If you go to Object and lower the bottom, it puts it behind that one. I'm going to do that again with this one because I kind of lost my other part. Was object lower to bottom. There you go. And I guess I had that green, which makes it a little confusing. Let's do that red. Alright, there we go. Now we want to get this to hit right at that intersection right there. So I'm going to get it kind of close, and then I'm going to zoom in like crazy. And keep dragging it over until I get it pretty spot on. Let's see here. There you go. That looks perfect. Let's zoom out. Okay. And now I'm going to create another rectangle. And I'm going to start with the rectangle that I'm going to turn into a triangle that's going to go right here. So let's take it. And should have grabbed it on the corner. There you go. Let's drag this over so it hits. Yep. Drag this all the way down. Perfect. Now, since we're going to change the points on this, and you can view the points by clicking on this. It's got a point there, there, and there, and it doesn't have one here. So what we want to do is we want to go to Path, Object to Path. As soon as we do that, it gives us a normal object that's got the points right here, and we can start modifying those. I'm going to duplicate this, edit, duplicate, and it created it just on top of that other one. So you can see I got two of them. Now I'm going to go back to Object and flip horizontal, and I'm going to drag that to this side over here, and I want it to hit that corner, so I'm going to grab this corner and drag it over. I think that's a little off, so if you go up to Edit, you can say create guides all around that outline that you did. Oh yeah, now it wants to snap in place. Now we're going to start taking metal away from this back plate so we can have this structure left over. So let's create an object. We want it to go to that corner right there. Alright, I'm going to select this, hold down shift and select this green piece and say path difference, and that just took the metal out of that section right there. And now I'm gonna do the same thing over here. There you go, same thing. It's selected, select this, path difference, there you go. And now I'm gonna take off that top section too, so let's create this. Snap to there. I'm gonna say select that and select this, path difference. Remove that chunk real quick. I'm just going to make a piece and delete it. And I'm going to turn off my snaps because I don't want it to move around on me. Alright, so I'm going to select it, select this, path, difference. Alright, now it's no longer showing up down there. So I'm going to select this and say path union, and then I'm going to select this little wing over here, say path union. Perfect. We want to go ahead and make that piece of metal one with this piece of metal, so path union. There you go. Now we've got almost the shape that we're looking for. We need the size of that hole and what the spacing is between these, and now it looks like that is 1/2 inch in diameter. The edge of this is 1 inch away from the edge of that. So 1/2 inch in diameter and 1 inch away on the edges. So let's create, there we go. Let's select it, change our width to 0.5 inches, change our height to 0.5 inches. Let's change those to blue so they show up. And let's go down and move it to that bottom left corner, which is 0, 0 of this circle. Let's snap it to 0, 0 of this. Oh, I don't have my snaps on. Alright, it snapped. Select it again. Okay, now let's go back to Edit, Duplicate, and we need to move it 1 inch over. 1 inch over. Perfect. Now I am going to go ahead and make these two pieces of metal one piece of metal by going to Path, Union. Now it doesn't mean that there has to be a connecting piece between them, it just means that they are the same piece of metal. So I've got those that I can move around as a pair. And we need to center the first one. So let's center it. There it goes. It's centered right there. I'll zoom in so I can show you. See, it's snapping it right to the center of this one right here. So that's perfect. Now I'm going to move it up by holding the control button. And I'm not sure what the spacing of these is from up here. So let's go back and take a look. Now that's close. That's close. That's definitely a good distance away right there and really close here. So, and this is where it's a bit of an art form because you have to interpret a lot of this with your gut. I'm going to take off the bounding or the snapping so a little bit more free. Alright, I think that's probably going to work. Now we have to keep making sets of these and rotate them all the way around this. So I'm going to select this, and if you tap it again, you get some arrows that let you rotate, and if you click them, you can see it rotates, and it always rotates the object around that little plus sign right there. I'm going to hit Control Z so it puts it back to perfectly level, but you can drag that to anywhere you want. So let's see if we can drag it down to the center. Oh, I need to turn on my snaps. This section right here is for snapping this stuff. There it goes. Now it's snapped to the center of this big circle. Now, if I do the rotation, it rotates it around this center point right here. So it makes it really easy. Alright, let's put those back to our starting point. I'm going to create 4 more sets of these, and I'm going to rotate each one to wherever we need to. So let's go duplicate, object, transform. That's the one we want. That opened up this window right here. Click on rotate, and let's see. Let's go back and figure this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It looks like all 5 of these are evenly spaced, and a complete circle is 360. 360 divided by 5 is 72. So we need to rotate each one by 72 degrees. So we just created this one. Let's rotate it by 72 degrees. Hit apply. Up there it goes. Alright, now it's selected. Let's make a duplicate of that one. Duplicate. You can see it got more blue because it's got 2 of them on top of each other. It still says 72. Hit apply. It jumps those down to there. Let's zoom out so we can see these a little bit better. There you go. Alright, these are still selected. I'm going to go back to edit, duplicate. It's at 72. I'm going to hit apply again. Alright, we got 1 more to go. Duplicate and apply. There you go. So that's all the holes that we have, those mounting bolts for this plate. Now I'm going to select all of them and make them one piece of metal. Let's see. Alright. Now let's see where it has the rotation. It's still in the center. Oh, there it goes. Okay. Now we can rotate all of these and put them wherever we want on this. And it looks like, I'm going to hit Control Z so they go back to how we started it. It looks to me like it is a little bit rotated counterclockwise. This isn't dead center, and the spacing is not the same on these at all. And again, that's where the artistic side comes in. It's hard to know what the exact numbers are on that, but I'm going to eyeball it and try and move it to where it looks like it's going to match that. So let's rotate this a little bit. Let's see. Let's get these side by side. Yep, I think the center of that is at 1 1/4. So I'm gonna create another guide and drag it down till we're at 1 1/4. Oh, that's too low. Let's see. Let's zoom in so we can get it right on. There it is, 1.25. Alright, let's zoom out. Let's see if there's one showing the left to right. 2132s, right? I don't know. Let's see. 21 divided by 32 equals 0.65625. 0.65. Zoom in. Six, 525. Well, it's closer to 0.65, so I guess we're gonna leave it right there. Let's see if that looks right. Looks like it's 5/16. 5 divided by 16 equals 0.3125. 0.3125. 0.3125. 0.3125. Now let's move it over. Snap it to the center. It doesn't look right to me. Let's speed up on something. No, I guess that does look right. Alright, now instead of trying to subtract off of this, what I'm going to do is just make a rectangle like this, drag it to right there, drag it to right there, let's drag it down to where it hits that, down here, alright, and I want to drag this over to that edge, perfect. Which means I can grab a guide and it'll snap to it. Good deal. Now I'll take rid of that. Select this, edit, duplicate. Let's move it to right there. Alright. Okay, now we need to figure out where we're going to start coming over. Maybe right in the center. Starts kind of curving, and it looks like it's curving almost following the same exact width of this the whole time. So what I'm going to do is create a circle. If I hold down Control, it makes a perfect circle. I'm going to drag it so it's centered on this too. Yep, snap to the middle. There you go. And then I'm going to hold down Control, grab this up, and hold down Shift. If you hold down Control and Shift, it moves in place and just universally enlarges. Like we did before. Let's just create a rectangle. And put it. Well, I really need something that's going to lock to the inside of this, so let me put another 5.5 inch thing there. 5.5, 5.5. Well, I did not need to make that 5 inches tall. So let's move it. Alright, perfectly centered. Hold Control. Start with this bottom edge because that's what I want to snap. Alright, perfect. Is it 5 1/4? Oh, that's what it was. It's 5 1/4. There we go. Got it centered. Let's get it. Alright, perfect. Now we've got that separation right there again. I'm going to grab this. Yep, snap to it. Whoop. Right there. There we go. Alright, now I'm going to reuse this. Let's see. Nope, I'm not. I forgot I still got this one right here. Let's move it so it snaps. Let's move it so it snaps here. And Let's move it out of the way for a little bit so I don't even match up a guide right there. Let's go. Oh, let's take off. Let's snap them. Okay. Let's move in. Let's get it kind of close. That looks good. Let's keep zooming in. Oh, looks like I was off a little bit. There you go. Let's zoom back out. Right. Let's try this. Oh, where's my snap? There you go. Alright, snapped. Perfect. Okay, now I'm going to click on it, and because I want to mess with these corners independently, I got to go back like we did before. Let's say object to path. Now we'll click on this, and oh, that's fine. I'm just going to drag it. Let's see about right there. That'll work. Alright, now you can see there's this bit of that curve right there that's showing, and I'd like to get rid of that. So I'm going to take this, see it snaps it over to there, go like that. I'll make this a yellow color so it's a little bit easier to see. I'll take this, and I'm going to path difference. There you go. And now you can see starting at this midpoint right here, I want all of this gone too. So I'm going to create another one and snap it to there and snap it. I'm just going to do it like that. Yeah. And select this main plate and then path difference. Alright, so now it took it away. This, and I'm going to select this and do path union. And then I'm going to go edit, duplicate. Then I'm going to flip it. There we go. And I'm going to drag it all the way over to here. Let's see, it's wanting to snap to that. There we go. Now I want this. There, perfect. Alright, same thing for this side. Let's go to right here. Let's say that's selected, path, difference. Alright. Now we want to select that. Path, union, select that, path, union. I need a little cover up piece for this. Should snap over, there it goes. Select, path, union. That just added that little piece in. Select here. There we go. Select that, select this, path, union. Alright. And that's it. That should be our part right there. Let me see. We need to take these away. So select that and select this. And I'll tell you what though, before I do that, I'm going to duplicate this because I don't want to have to recreate this if I'm changing something later on. So I'm going to say edit, duplicate, and I'm going to take this and just get it out of here. I'm going to hold down Control though, because I want it to kind of be in line with that to make it easy to get back. Alright, now I'm going to select this and go to path, difference. Alright, there you go. We just cut out those mounting bolt holes. Now we'll select this and we'll take out that main hole in the section. Difference. Alright, there's those. Now last we have are these, but for some reason I was feeling like I had my sizes wrong. Let's see, that looks like almost like 3/8. I think that's got to be 3/8 right there. And 3/8 is 0.375, so I'm just going to change these to 0.375 and 0.375. I'm just going to delete that one because I don't need it. Now I'll zoom in here. Click this. Whoops, I clicked on something. There you go. Alright. Duplicate. Let's drag it over here. Alright. Zoom out. Select that. Select this. path difference, select this, path difference. Alright, there you go. That's the part right there, and that's the part that we're going to create a file of. Now I'm going to go up here and say File, Save, and this is not creating the file that's going to cut out on the table. This is just saving this project like it is, so that if we want to come back and modify it or tweak it, we can. And I'm going to call this, let's go to the desktop, and we'll go to, I'm going to go ahead and save it inside of here, and call this rendering, and I'll call it mounting plate rendering. Save. Alright, now I want to select this, and because this is the item that I want to create a file for that's going to go on the table, go back to extensions, go to G-code tools, go all the way down to where it says path to G-code. Now on path to G-code, if you scroll over to preferences, right here is where you're going to type in the name. I'm going to change the name of this to mounting. I always like to make it official. Mounting bracket, there you go. And you have to click back on where it says path to G-code. If I hit apply right now while I'm on preferences, it'll have an issue. So click on path to G-code and then say apply. It's going to give you a message saying orientation points have not been created. That's fine. Just say OK, and you'll see these little things pop up right here. That's what it means by the orientation points. And when it's done, it still leaves this window open. You can see that a lot of little dots have kind of shown up. I'll show you what that is. Close this. If you go to the magnifying glass and zoom in, that, well, I zoomed in too much. Those are arrows showing you how the plasma is going to cut and what direction it's going to go in order to cut it out. And you can actually select that stuff, and as soon as it creates it, I drag it and hit delete and get it out of there. It doesn't affect anything, but there's no reason to keep it on there. And if you go to create, if you modify the file at all, it's just going to create more and more and more of those that are filling up your screen and making clutter. So it's nice to get rid of those. So let's zoom out. Alright, so there's our part. Let's minimize this. Let's close that, close this. We'll open up that folder where I had that part. And there you go, that's showing the mounting plate rendering, and my files that get created from Inkscape go to my documents folder, into this folder that says NGC. So we're looking for mounting bracket right there. And I have a program, this is it right here, called Basic 3D Viewer. It's a great program to see the files that you've created before they go on the table, just to make sure that you did it right. A lot of times someone will create a file in Inkscape, and or they'll think that they created a file in Inkscape for the table, and they'll copy something over to the table, and it'll end up having none of this information that you see over here in the file, and so nothing will show up. If you have this program on your computer, and it's free, it's a great program for walking through and seeing what it is, you can at least verify that the file you made is the file that you want, and it looks the way that you want it to look. It's always, as long as it did it, it's more than likely going to look like you want. And this is what G-code is. So G-code is very simple. It looks like it's confusing, but basically it's just telling it go to this point and this point, then this point, then this point, and that's it. That's the whole point of the G-code file. And that looks like we want, so it looks like we're good to go. So I'm going to close this, and I'll leave this open right here. If I connect my tablet, it's going to pop up like a, let me see if I've got my tablet, and I'll just show you how it looks. 1 second while I get it plugged in. Alright. Good deal. So that's the tablet that I'm using right now. So I'm going to leave that there, and I'm going to right mouse click on this. And it doesn't matter what folder I click on, I just want a different folder so that I can leave this folder alone. So if I click on this folder and it opens up and I've got this folder right here, I'm going to take this one and go down and click on where it says that tablet. I'll click on internal storage and it'll show you all the folders that are on here. You can put it wherever you want. I'm just going to drag it over and that's it. Now it's on the tablet. And it'll be on there until I decide I don't want it on there anymore. And if I modify it, I might save this one on there still and start labeling the versions so I can go back and revert to a previous version if I need to. But that's it. That's the basis of it, and that gets you the part that you need. And if you got to go back and modify it, it's fairly easy to modify. If you have any questions, go to our forum and or give us a call, and we'll see you on the next video. Thanks.